there, and welcome everybody back to the TNA post show. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. As always, joining me for this review is none other than the star of the show himself, the one and only Burt Maclin.
How's it going?
It's going good. Wow, it feels like forever since we've done a show, but it's only been like, 2 weeks?
Yeah, it did feel longer. It did for sure.
That was a nice little break, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for tonight's TNA was the first TNA live on Sportsnet. Well, not live on Sportsnet, but it was the first TNA on Sportsnet, which is a huge deal because it's like the biggest network in Canada.
That's major.
Yeah.
And like we know that TNA is, for reasons, is very popular in Canada, so this is big.
Oh, definitely. But let's talk about the news that broke earlier this week. So from Sports Illustrated's takedown, the takedown can exclusively confirm that AJ Francis has signed a new contract to remain with TNA Wrestling. Terms of the deals are not disclosed. Hi, Io. Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, this is really good news. I'm glad AJ Francis re-signed with TNA. He's been such a great asset to TNA. He's really knocked it out of the park. I still think Joe Hendry should share that moment of the year award with AJ Francis, because if it wasn't for him, he probably wouldn't have gone rival.
You know, like, I agree. I know in the article, Francis mentioned, like, if AJ wants to, he just mentioned if Joe wants to buy him some cigars or something like that, like, he should. But, like, in all sport, like, I'm a fan of most sports, like, and, there's always something to when you always want your franchise to kind of take care of their homegrowns or, like, their own core, their own guys, you know what I mean? Like, instead of always going out for free agents. So them taking, and I know AJ Francis isn't a homegrown TNA guy, but I really felt that he was somebody that that TNA should take care of just because of how well he's done. And if you read that article too, like, I've just been seeing multiple, like, quotes from him, and, like, just, like, no one really believed him, and TNA did. And, like, I think that this worked out very well. And I think he's with TNA through the end of 2025. That's awesome. I did think of you when he was on the side of the Cheez-It Bowl again, because I kept thinking the Semtam last year, I believe he was digital media champion, and what a perfect opportunity, because we always talk about that. That's where he's the type of person that shines with this belt. And I thought it was a missed opportunity for him not to be champion right now, because having that belt on the sideline, people would have been like, what is that? You know what I mean? So, again, I'm not going to dwell on that, but AJ's back. Let's get the DMC title on, maybe first class tag gold, but let's go. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. Like, I think that AJ Francis has definitely proven himself in TNA. That main event that he did with Nic Nemeth, I think that really solidified him as a main eventer, and I cannot wait to see what he does in 2025. I really hope that First Class does win tag team gold, and that AJ Francis becomes a world champion. I could see him being a very powerful heel champion,
Yeah, like what you said too, that was, I think a lot of people, especially they haven't, I think that not only was from a standpoint of the best title, well, I'm not going to say the best, because Nick and Josh was a banger, but in terms of, like, a world title match, I thought that it was worked perfectly, especially, like, you had a bigger guy out there for Hendry, kind of like a David Goliath, as opposed to, like, a lot of the guys in TNA are kind of the same size. So I thought Joe Hendry worked a spectacular match. I mean, I'm not AJ Francis, sorry.
Yeah. I was right. Can see First Class going out to the tag titles. Yeah, I can too.
I do hope we get Rich Swann back, just because I thought they had something going with Francis. A lot of people, and I've heard people say Francis kind of resurrected Rich Swann's career, and I'm not saying Rich Swann didn't have any part of that, but I definitely thought that Rich Swann found his groove being a heel with AJ Francis. So I'd like to see this trio together kind of be like the next big faction in TNA. because we don't know how long the system will last. But yeah, tag team gold would be good. And again, I think AJ Francis should be world champion at some point.
I definitely do think so too. I mean, it's just right now the main title scene is so stacked. It is really stacked.
It's funny you mentioned that because we'll talk about it later, but another guy kind of declared himself wanting to be in that scene tonight. So yes, it's very stacked.
Yeah, very stacked. All right, let's get into today. So we're not gonna talk about Explosion. So let's start off talking about Jordynne Grace. So at Final Resolution, for those that didn't watch or if you can't remember, Tessa Blanchard made her return to TNA and she attacked Jordynne Grace. Now, on tonight's episode of TNA Impact, Tessa Blanchard did the same thing. So let's recap for a second. So you had Jordynne Grace sitting by the door waiting for Tessa. She was waiting for her. Now, she was in the main event in this 8 knockouts tag match. Before the match, her team came to get her, and Santana Marella put a guard there, to keep watch. However, as we learned shortly before the match started, the security guard was found taken out backstage. Now, I have to say this 8 knockout tag match was great. Absolutely loved it. I really love that sequence that they did towards the end with the DDT, the power slam, the cutter. That was really great. I really like those suplexes that they did to Tasha Steelz, Heather and Ash by Elegance, and Rosemary. That was great. And so even though Spitfire, Jordynne Grace, and Masha Slamovich won this match, at the end, Tessa Blanchard blindsided Jordynne Grace and a bra broke out. You saw Rosemary missed Masha Slamovich. Tessa Blanchard literally dragged Jordynne Grace to the back, down the ramp, and she said that she put the Knockouts division on the map, and now she's taking her locker room back. And this was the last image of tonight's show. Ash and Heather by Elegance sending a message that they are going to be Knockouts tag team champions. I always write Knockouts Wrestling, yes. So what were your thoughts on this?
Love Team Elegance, by the way.
Same.
Let me just say, and it's funny, I love how I was in the chat because me and I are always talking. On one hand, of course, I like the chaos. I like how this show ended. On the other hand, I don't like how it went so fast from Masha getting that pin, which she should have, to kind of Tessa taking out Jordynne. And obviously, nothing's been said, nothing's been established, we don't know plans going forward. But I just don't want a situation to where this stifles, because I think Masha's kind of been, people have been waiting, and I think we've kind of been waiting for Masha to be the next one. And it is her time now. And I just don't want anything to derail that, because I think in the time since Tessa's been gone, I think there's a lot of women in that locker room who eclipse her in terms of potential, star power, and just Pecky, names like Danny Luna, who a lot of promise, Heather Reckless coming in, Zaya Brookside, the rebuild of Ash. And then, of course, to me, Masha is taking the mantle of, she's getting Jordynne's spot. So I just don't want anything to get in the way of that. And I don't think that, I don't want to see Tessa immediately take the belt off Masha. Masha needs a year-long reign. So I'm going to wait and see what plans they have. I definitely think I think it's pretty obvious what we know Jordynne's last match is going to be. But it's going to be weird though. You wouldn't think that Jordynne would lose in her hometown. I believe she's from Texas. But it's very clear that we're going to get some sort of match between Tessa and Jordynne. So I think that's inevitable.
Io says the heels got the last laugh. Right back at you, Bert. Joseph says, so I feel like confirmed over the holidays with their sources that Jordynne's last contracted weekend is Genesis. She could debut at Rumble if she wanted to. I hate to say this. I think it's because Jordynne's still around. That's why Masha's title reign isn't moving up yet.
Good point, Io. Good point.
Yeah, good point, Io. I have to say, this is leading up to Tessa Blanchard versus Jordynne Grace at TNA Genesis. That's where this is going. So far I'm liking the build to it. I'm liking the build. You know, with Jordynne being from Texas, I could definitely see her getting the Trinity treatment and getting the big win in her final contracted match with TNA before riding off into the WWE, you know?
When is Jordynne's contract up?
A Genesis weekend.
Genesis weekend. So she won't be at the live show. Is that what we're presuming?
Well, the live show is in San Antonio, so she I don't think it's I don't know really if she's not. I know she's working Genesis. I don't know if she's working San Antonio.
See, I would rather hold off on if they're going to do Tessa Jordynne. I would rather save that for the live show and then have Jordynne get a big final win on a pay-per-view in her hometown. But that's just me, just because also I think, they're kind of having to build almost two big shows, Genesis and the live, because they're going to want to they're going to want to do something special for that first live show in years. You know what I mean? So, but again, I feel like there's a set rule of people have to, win in their hometown or not lose in their hometown. And especially if you remember Jordan's message last week, I definitely could see Jordynne coming back in some degree later. You know what I mean? I don't think this is the last we'll see her in TNA. You know what I mean? But yeah, it would be not. Obviously, the goal would be to have Jordynne put somebody over, on her way out. But so I just don't know how I would feel if just because of what she's meant for the division, seen her the last image of her is losing. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. Because she's meant a lot to this company.
Yeah. Especially her stock value went up after Deonna left,
Definitely. And Jordynne's one of those people, too, that, I don't think that anybody who watches TNA is going to be upset if she goes to WWE or AEW and gets a big payday. Because if you look at anyone around the wrestling business, she's definitely one that deserves it as much as anybody else. So, I'm going to continue to watch her. You know what I mean? I'm not loyal just to one. I try to watch everybody, especially when somebody I like goes to another company. So, I'll definitely watch her wherever she goes. But yeah, again, like I said, I don't know if my heart can take seeing her lose on her way out just because of what she's meant.
We don't know yet. We're just speculating here. I personally would like to see her beat Tessa. We got to wait and see. At the end of the day, At the end of the day, we got to focus on the folks still around. That's true. We do. We have to focus on them. And who knows? We don't even know if Tessa's going to be around for the long haul or if this is just a temporary thing,
And yeah, well said on Io's part. And again, TNA has always done that better than anybody. Nothing really stops the TNA momentum. You know what I mean? One up, one down. The next one up. So that's how it's always been.
We lost Deonna. We lost Trinity. And we're losing Jordynne Grace. We'll be okay. We got Ying Lee, which is a great addition. We'll be fine. There's no need to panic. Knockouts division will be great.
And I can make the argument that the knockout single scene, single title scene, world title scene is fine. They need tag teams because, like you said, Ying Lee, who is a burgeoning star, again, perfect TNA signing, didn't get the shine in their other companies, going to get it now. But Killer Kelly's on her way back. Kylan King's going to be on her way back. So again, like always, it's not like this company just started. It's been around for 22 years. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. All right. Let me see. Joseph says Jordynne accomplished everything in TNA she could in this run. 3-time Knockouts champion, Knockouts Tag Team Champion. Only woman to beat Digital Media Champion. Knockouts Division is awesome without Jordynne. More talent will come later. I would compare the Knockouts Division to the NXT Women's Division. Somebody could leave and the division will fight. Exactly. The only thing Jordynne didn't do, and I don't know who will be the one to do it, is break Taya Valkyrie's record for being the longest reigning knockouts reigning champion.
You know what? Now that you said that, I think that's something that they should have Masha do, just because I think everyone kind of needs like a signature in their title in a reign, or like they need that signature moment that kind of defines their championship reign or as a dominant one. And I think Jordynne Masha being the one to break that record would be good. I would like that.
Well, she won at when did she won the title at Bound for Glory. She would have to hold the title till I think the Final Resolution next year, or at least no, she would have to hold the title till I think Turning Point for her to break that record.
And that gives TNA kind of time to not run into a situation where they had to rush Ash into the main event title scene. You know what I mean? They're gonna build up some contenders. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, they could do something with her and Killer Kelly. I think Killer Kelly's someone who is gonna be a big star. She has star potential all over. And real quick to Isle's point about people always what did he say? Like they'll always have talent for the division, or you know what I mean? People always want to come to TNA. I think I brought it up last week. Indy Hartwell took a picture with she has like a bunch of TNA memorabilia. So it sounds like she wants to come to TNA. So if I'm TNA, that's the kind of people I want to go get for my company, or people who want to be in TNA. So TNA is going to be fine.
Yeah.
This knockout division produces talent at no other. So.
Hey, Antonio. Okay. So tonight's Impact kicked off with Joe Hendry. He opened tonight's show. Now, he was talking about how he made a promise to himself. He made a New Year's resolution on January 1st, 2013 to become a pro wrestler. And as he's talking, he gets interrupted by Ryan Nemeth.
Let me just say real quick. I just want whoever runs TNA's social media account, they're the best, because before this show started, they put out Rising Star Ryan Nemeth takes on Rhino. And so I went and Googled it. He is 40. That just made me laugh. But what also made me laugh too is there's two kinds of heels, really. Like, you got your badass heel, and then you got your geek heels. And I like how Ryan Nemeth is taking kind of like the Ricochet route, with just being kind of a dork. Like, as soon as he came out, I wanted him to get his ass kicked. And I'm glad this match was funny. Like, I was dying during this segment.
Wait, Ryan Nemeth is 40?
Yeah.
I thought he was younger.
No, I couldn't believe because like right when the TNA wrote Rising Star, I was dying.
What? Oh,
yeah,
I gotta see that. I did not see that comment.
Yeah, I was dying.
Okay, so yeah, I watched the YouTube channel Scala TNA Memorabilia. Yeah, once Indy does her 90 days, I would expect TNA interest in her.
Her and STL would be a great tag team.
Yeah. All right. So, as I was saying, Ryan Nemeth interrupts Joe Hendry. The audacity of Ryan Nemeth to call Joe Hendry a mid-carder. As when Moose called Matt Cardona mid-Cardona all those years ago, he had some point to that,
That's another thing I said in my group chat. I was like, the audacity for this guy who barely got out of AEW Dark to call somebody a mid-carder. I was like, damn it, what a great heel line.
I know the God of Ryan calling Joe a jobber, right? A mid-carder.
And again, Joe is so good off the cuff. I think he mentioned Ryan Nemeth comedy routine. And like because what did Joe say? He's having trouble sleeping. So the doctor said, watch Ryan Nemeth's comedy special. he was out. Like, I was like, damn it, Joe, you didn't have to cook him that bad.
Yeah,
it's like that gif from The Simpsons. He's already dead. You didn't need to kill him.
He was out in 10 minutes.
Yeah. This was good shit.
When he has the most dark matches. I didn't watch AEW Dark, but yeah, like Ryan Nemeth, of all people, calling Joe Hendry a mid-carder. He proceeds to call him a snake. He says that he's not a hero, he's not a main eventer. And he's basically like, he's just being I guess you could say, yeah, a geek. He was coming off real heelish, so I did like this. Joe Hendry calls Ryan a janitor. Yep, a janitor.
That was good too.
Yeah.
I also like, again, I think Ray Wall and Hannafin are so good. I think at one point in this match, Ray Wall's like, this is an ECW in the 90s. Like, when he pulled out that chair, and then like Nemeth said the same thing. He's like, this is an ECW. It was really, again, maybe, I don't know if it's because it's TNA, but Ryan finding his role as Nemeth's annoying little brother, who's not that younger, is a very good role for him. Because we'll see, again, we're going to talk about it more. I think he had 3 talking segments this show. You know what I mean? So it's like, we got our Ryan Nemeth fill this show.
You know, he's playing that annoying, like you mentioned, that annoying heel, but he's doing such a good job at it so far.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most we've seen of Ryan Nemeth, and he's knocked it out of the park with how annoying he is.
And also, this could be the conduit for Nic Nemeth turning heel.
Oh, I
because
agree.
we kind of got a little bit of, week by week, Nemeth's kind of been dropping like some heelish lines, like the way he like references, like, oh, Joe, just the way that he talks about Joe Hendry. So I think this could be the way this happens. You know what I mean? So yes, this is good stuff. TNA planting the seeds.
For sure. So this is into Rhino versus. He sounds like it was just iridescent. I disagree. I really did like Ryan Nemeth's character.
Okay. Yeah, again, like you said, not every heel can be a badass. We need some geek heels to get the shit kicked out of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's lead to Rhino versus Ryan Nemeth. And Ryan Nemeth, like you mentioned, he brings in that chair. Ryan Nemeth actually wins this by DQ because Rhino hits him with that chair to the back. And he complains later on when we get to that segment about that chair shot. But I thought this was good. I actually really liked Ryan in this role that he's doing. So this, I know Rhino had posted that this was his swan song, but it might not be, as we learn later on in the night. I see. Eric says, Happy New Year, Spotty Stuff Famo. Happy New Year to you too, Eric. Joseph says, LOL. Joe Hendry had a nice 2024. He's the only wrestler I know to win 2 awards in 2 different companies. NXT fans voted Joe Hendry showing up moment of the year. Oh, speaking, where we forgot to bring that up. So Joe Hendry, not only did he win TNA Male Wrestler of the Year and Moment of the Year, he also won NXT Moment of the Year too. So that's a huge congrats to Joe Hendry. He's the first TNA wrestler to win an NXT award. So congrats to him. Just goes to show how over he is. And again, show some gratitude to AJ Francis, because if it wasn't for AJ Francis, I don't think Joe Hendry would have gone rival like he did.
Again, you could argue, yes, AJ Francis was, it was the synergy, you know what I mean? Joe Hendry Francis became the Cheez-It champ because of Joe, and Joe became a big star because of AJ. So, yeah, totally agree.
What was funny? Earlier today, I was listening to the radio, and Creed's Hire came on, and I was like, how appropriate. How appropriate that I'm going to watch TNA and Creed's Hire comes on. So, oh, thank God. All right. So after this, we get a Jordynne Grace interview, and she's talking about Tessa. She's talking about how Tessa took her ball and left, and now she wants to come back and basically reap the benefits. Jordynne talks about how she represented TNA during the pandemic and across multiple companies, and that she's not the same old Grace from 5 years ago, but Tessa's the same old Tessa, and she's gonna give Tessa the warm welcome that she deserves. So I actually really like this. You know?
Yeah, because you could also like make the case. Jordynne kind of like took the ball when Tessa left and kind of, ran with it and kind of, eclipsed it. Jordynne became a big star and became, the one in the company. So, well, her and Deanna. But yeah, I just think that there's similar parallels to them. So yeah, I like this.
Same. Joe promised anytime we say his name, he can show up at any time in NXT. I think if I'm TNA, I wonder what Joe's status is in TNA WWE. I think we talked about this towards the end of last year. I think it was confirmed that Joe is staying with 2025, with TNA through 2025. So he definitely has time to be world champion before he leaves to WWE, assuming that's where he's going to go after he's done with TNA.
I think given where Joe Hendry, I don't know his age, but I think given where Joe Hendry is at, I think WWE, I think in general, TNA kind of knows where he's at in terms of, yes, he's 36. He's going to be 37. He seemed, I think he can do a lot in this next year while he's with TNA. But I think TNA is in this position right now where they have so much young talent. I don't think that they think keeping Joe Hendry is a priority. If he wants to be in TNA, of course. But I think they have so much stuff for the future, and we're going to talk about that a lot tonight as we go forward, that he has a year to accomplish being world champion, you know what I mean? But again, you could argue that after he does that, the same thing, even though it's less, that he accomplished everything that he needs to accomplish in TNA. So, you know what I mean? So, again, I don't think Joe Hendry, I don't think necessarily if TNA losing Joe Hendry is a big loss. And I'm not saying that again, disrespect to him. I'm just saying, look at the age, look at, you know what I mean? He's been wrestling a long time. And again, if he wins his world champion before he leaves, I don't think anyone's going to complain.
I also think you're spot on. They're going to take advantage of the year they have with Henry.
Exactly.
Didn't know he was committed through 2025 with TNA. Things like that. So I think his contract expires like around Bound for Glory. I don't remember, but I know it's pretty much through 2025. And I definitely do see Joe Hendry. We talked about this, and we've talked about this. I know people were upset when he didn't win at Bound for Glory, but Joe Hendry hasn't gone through adversity. He hasn't faced much adversity. And honestly, I hate to say this because, I love Joe Hendry. I believe in 252 pounds of pure motivation. But it honestly would not surprise me if Henry still doesn't win at TNA Genesis. Why? Because Nic Nemeth, they're going to use that loss to turn Nic Nemeth heel. That's what I think. And I think after that, that's when Joe Hendry would probably win at the next time he gets a title shot. I think that's when he'll win. Because I feel like they would use TNA Genesis to turn Nic Nemeth heel. Just planting the seeds.
I remember Io said that same thing a couple weeks ago. Joe Hendry cannot lay claim to going through a lot of adversity when there's a guy in Josh Alexander who lost the title the night that he won it. I think Joe Hendry's only had one title match. A second one, he was lost in a 6-man. People act like Joe Hendry's been losing left and right. No, and they also don't remember, it wasn't like he's been a main eventer his whole time he's been there. He was a digital media guy. He had a champion. He had a burgeoning tag team title run with Yuya. They just kind of started positioning there. So it's not like, again, until he's like Josh, who lost the title the night that he won it, he hasn't gone through anything. Or even Kazarian, who's been in this company, who his only title shot was 2008, like before like world title shot that he kind of like walked into because I believe someone got hurt that night and he took their place. Joe has not gone through what other TNA people have gone through. So pump the brakes on, he's washed or buried.
I says Joe won qualifying matches, but never really chased the belt. That's true. With Nick versus Joe too at Genesis, my thing is if we don't find out that John Layfield's with Nick, what's the point of John bailing Nick out of our events? I agree. I think that's what I'm saying. I think at TNA Genesis is when Nic Nemeth turns heel, and then we get Joe versus Nick 3 with Joe finally winning the title. You know?
Yes.
But to me, it just makes the most sense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love for Joe Hendry to beat Nic Nemeth at TNA Genesis. I just don't see it happening because they need to justify a Nic Nemeth's heel turn. What better way to turn heel than to screw Joe Hendry out of the title?
I personally think that Joe should be screwed at Genesis, which sets up the immediate rematch on the live show to get people to want to watch the live show. You know what I mean? Because that's when I would do the title change, just because I would end with a big, finally them ending with Layfield, Nick, and then Ryan can be there too, with all holding the hands up, and then you do it. You know what I mean? Because again, like I said, they're in an opportunity where they essentially have to build up 2 pay-per-view caliber cards because they're going to have more eyes on. They could arguably have more eyes on their live show than they could have on the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So I think that card has to be even bigger than the Genesis card.
Yeah. Joseph agrees with you, Bert. Either Joe gets screwed or he beats Nick Nemeth's rematch on the live show. No, I think Joe Hendry's gonna get screwed.
Yes, because again, did you see that tweet? JBL kind of tweeted that I think he's been working, he's kind of been preparing for a comeback or to do something.
I didn't see that.
Something along the lines there's something big coming in 2025. So and I believe he's spoken pretty nicely about TNA in a few posts. So, and again, that's his backyard as well, Texas. Yeah, I believe
that's true.
So.
That's true. All right, so next we get the Rascalz segment, and they're talking about the Hardys, basically, that how the tag belts are being held by legends, a dream team that they grew up watching. Who didn't grow up watching the Hardys? Honestly, I don't think there's a tag team in wrestling in this day and age that didn't grow up watching the Hardys.
I love. Yes, if you're from a certain, I bet you everyone's seen the spear off the top. Off the ladder. You know what I mean? Everyone remembers JR going, "Don't do it, Jeff." We all know that. I love this fucking segment. I love how Matt's you guys are young, good looking. Kind of reminds me of us. I'm love that. And obviously, as soon as I think the dominoes have aligned because, the only other team that I thought needed the rub, because the ABC didn't certainly need it. They're 3-time champs. I don't know if have Wentz and Trey held the titles together yet or no?
Yeah, they did. Last year, remember when they were heels?
Okay. Well, no, I remember Trey was X Division. I remember Trey was X Division champ and spray painted. I don't remember if they were ever tag champs.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, didn't ABC took the titles off of them? Did you remember?
Okay. As soon as Hammerstone got hurt, and then obviously, and I just said that I didn't think ABC needed it. This should be, and although it's kind of soon, who the Hardys should drop the titles to. This would kind of cement the Rascalz. This would be their signature big win, knocking out the Hardys. So, while I think Genesis is a little soon, when did the Hardys win the titles? Victory Road?
Bound for Glory.
And when was that?
Bound for Glory. The Hardys won the title. Yeah, they won at Bound for Glory.
And that was October, right?
October, yeah.
So that's not a very long run. I could see the Hardys getting this win tonight and then maybe building to Slammiversary. Rebellion. But yeah, right then and there, this is going to be a banger. But I don't think the Rascalz get it done. I don't think the Hardys run ends this soon. Yeah, but this should be the team that takes the titles off of them.
One thing about the Hardy Boys in TNA is we're getting dream matches that I thought wouldn't happen. Hardy Boys versus Rascalz at Genesis as well. Yeah, I agree. I really like the part I like the point that you mentioned that the Hardys said that they remind them of that because their feelings are hungry and they're good looking. That's hilarious. But this is the first confirmed match for TNA Genesis. The Hardys versus the Rascalz for the tag titles. Smoke them if you got them.
And actually, now that I wouldn't mind, I take it back. I wouldn't mind if AJ and KC were the ones to take the titles off them eventually. Yeah. That would be the only other team that I think would benefit from beating the Hardys. Because again, you beat the Hardys, that's a big fucking deal. You know what I mean? The Hardys are like a lot of people's number one, and I guarantee you, if you're ranking the history of tag team, the Hardys are going to be pretty high up there. So, you know what I mean? You kind of have you want to make sure that who they put over it means something.
I know this first time ever. I can't wait. Yeah, first time ever. I can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic match. All right, so next we get Kushida versus Ace Austin. This was a great match. Let me tell you, a great showcase of X Division talent here. This was great.
I believe it's Draven on Twitter shared the gif of Ace Austin had like a one-arm power bomb during the match. That was fucking impressive.
A one-arm gut wrench power bomb.
And this is also, I think it was after Kushida hit the arm bar off the top of the rope. You know what I mean? Like this was the kind of the match that just kind of defines the X Division in terms of it's like a mesh of styles. And let me just say, like, Kushida was the one loss that kind of hurt me just because I always thought that it's not like New Japan didn't build him strong. They did. He's a former multiple-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. And then he went to TNA, WWE, and it kind of didn't work out. I thought he could have had a higher ceiling in TNA, possibly a world champion, definitely an X Division champion. So to see him go, I'm a little sad. Probably the loss that hurts me the most are the people who are leaving, besides Speedball, like the obvious. But yeah, no, this was a great match. And let me just say, when we got to the after the promo, like, Ace mentioning Chris, it teared me up. But then when Ace just said that Chris told him it's his time, I was like, okay, you could be looking at your top babyface star right there. Until like this was good.
I have to say, Kushida, it is sad to see him go, but I feel like one of the reasons why he left was because the Motor City Machine Guns left, and without Motor City Machine Guns, it's like, there goes time machine, time splitter. So I understand why he left. So,
just real quick on Kushida. Someone who was pretty, close to the Kushida. I did see that Kevin Knight's becoming a free agent. TNA, you know what to do. Sign Kevin Knight. Sign Kevin Knight.
Mm-hmm. All right. So at the end, Ace Austin was cutting a promo. He mentioned how Chris Bay told him to go on a singles run. Now he makes mention that he wants to be the top guy, win the top title. He wants Nic Nemeth's title. Someone takes offense to this, and that someone is none other than Moose. Because as we all know, Moose is trying to make the X Division title be the title in TNA. So he even says that he's offended by the fact that Ace Austin is talking about going after the top title, but hasn't mentioned his name. He talks about how he doesn't need the idiots clapping for him. Oh my god.
I was a little disappointed about this just because, Ace Austin has been ex-champion before. But at the same time, it's like, I can't remember if Moose and Ace Austin have had a match before. So again, this is another perfect time. TNA does matches like this beautifully. So I'm fine with this. And it's not it's going to like derail. But my whole thing is, it's a little odd that they're going to start this campaign off with, I don't think Ace Austin's going to win, but to be honest with you, I actually think he should, because I don't really necessarily think Moose needs this title. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very hard one to predict because at the one hand, it'd just be very, like I said, very weird to start Ace Austin off with a loss. But again, short title reign. TNA normally, doesn't do too short of reigns, but again, it's Moose being the champion is still a little weird to me. So, but if he's trying to establish, and I like how him saying that because, like in other companies, you know what I mean, like you have your world title and your main title. I mean, your secondary title, but ever since I've always watched TNA, they've always positioned the X Division title as almost like on the same level as the world title. You know what I mean? It's not a mid-card title. If honestly, I think the DMC is their mid-card title.
You mean the often forgotten about DMC title?
Yes. Yeah. So, again, it doesn't hurt Ace Austin to lose, but again, I would hope that he does win.
Yeah. Actually, I know we're not doing predictions here. I know it's a little too early to do TNA Genesis predictions, but as we learned during this segment at TNA Genesis, it will be Moose versus Ace Austin for that X Division title. The reason I don't think Ace Austin is going to win, because if you saw or if you paid attention during this match, Ace Austin got set off by the fact that Moose mentioned Chris Bay. Like, the mere mention of his name just set Ace Austin off.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to play a factor into their match. I feel like Moose is purposely going to trigger Ace by mentioning Moose. I mean, by mentioning Chris Bay or getting like a Chris Bay item. And I feel like he's purposely going to set him off with that. And that's going to end up costing Ace this match.
Yeah, so then maybe you have to focus. Maybe, we get Ace having to refocus. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah. So, but I am looking forward to this match because I think it's going to be an interesting clash of styles.
Yes.
Io says this could be a match of the night and big showcase for Austin. That is true. It feels like PCO has been forgotten since his wife went down with her neck injury. Her contract expired, and Matt Cardona was bought in for one night only at Ring of Honor. He says, I made a good point. Thank you, Io. Happy New Year to Hassan. Go back to Final Resolution. Trent to 7 disrespected Bayshire. Yeah, exactly. Remember?
Yeah, they mentioned that too.
So, all right. So next, we get a Steve Maclin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham segment here. And you're talking about Jeffrey Young. Hi.
The show, the show was very, this nickname of the show should be Kirk, because there was a lot of angles on this show. Sorry, That was a bad dad joke. I'm sorry. But okay. This was kind of like the most underwhelming backstage segment, just because I just kind of felt like it was there. You know what I mean? It's just kind of Steve Maclin, Eric Young, and Gresham kind of reiterating what they've been saying. They're pissed off.
Yeah. Now, JDC, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards walk in, and with no provocation, Steve Maclin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham attack them. I mean, I'm sure they're so mad about what happened last time. Rightfully so, but they didn't do anything to that. They were just walking into the locker room minding their own business.
I just laughed because I got this confused with the other JDC. Because the other JDC thing with Kazarian later tonight was probably my favorite thing of the night. When they were with Leon Slater. We'll talk about that later, but no, yeah, this was good too.
Oh, I got a brawl broke out between them. Huh. All right. Oh, and as we learned next week, we're getting a match. All right. So we get a Ryan Nemeth segment.
What's the match they're getting next week?
I think it's Maclin, Young, and Gresham versus JDC, Eddie Edwards, and Brian Myers.
Okay. Yeah. And speaking of Eddie Edwards, I think Eddie Edwards just had a birthday, so happy birthday, Eddie.
Happy birthday, Eddie.
I believe I saw that.
So we get a Ryan Nemeth segment.
Again. I'm dying.
Oh my god. Oh, I was right. Surprisingly, no Alicia tonight. Yeah, that's true.
The way Ryan's just whining about, like, it's so good.
Ryan is just whining and complaining about Rhino, about how he says that Rhino thinks he's in ECW and that his brother's gonna hear about. Let me tell you, Ryan Nemeth seems to be that kid that likes to instigate fights and then goes and complains to his brother that he's being bullied.
And then he stands behind him. Yeah. I thought that the whole time. That's a good comparison.
So we end up getting a match for next week. It's Santino Marella. Oh, well, Santino Marella makes it official for next week. So it's going to be Rhino versus the Nemeth brothers, and Joe Hendry's going to team up with Rhino to face them. So I guess Rhino has one more match before he rides off into the sunset.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming that they taped a few, things with him. Obviously, he probably had that one date, but that date probably covered a few shows.
Yeah, I agree. All right. But this is great. This is great. Was that the last we see of Ryan Nemeth?
No. Ryan Nemeth was obviously watching his 90s WCW Nitro videos and trying to be like the NWO who comes out multiple times a show to annoy the fans, which I'm fine with. I like him being annoying is his best role. So
I agree. All right, so Mike Santana comes out. He has Josh's headgear that he took from
this promo. This got heated quickly. They were throwing shots.
So Josh said that if he wouldn't be without who he is today, without the war between the North and LAX, he brings up the fact that
no one celebrates TNA. No one celebrates history better than TNA. I love that he mentioned that.
Same. Now, he brings up the fact that Mike Santana left. Let me see. Io says, love this segment. Santana's promos don't miss. I agree.
Yeah. Santana's so fucking good on the mic. Like, he's such a star.
Oh, yeah. And this promo showed it. So, it brings up Santana leaving. And he asks, what did Santana do? How many belts did he win? He won 0. And and that's true because out of everybody in LAX and between the North, Josh Alexander was really the only one who went on to become world champion. And not only that, the longest reigning TNA world champion. I mean, yeah, sure, Ethan Page was NXT champion, but look how long it took him to become champion.
And let me just say, too, Josh really hurt me with that line, too, because I'm assuming that there are some fans of TNA who watch AEW, and a lot of us are pretty freaking bitter that Santana Ortiz never won gold in AEW. They were like the one team that didn't. So that line definitely stung a little bit because Josh is right. He hadn't won any gold since, he left. But to me...
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, what were you saying?
I would say, I agree. Like, I'm really surprised Santana and Ortiz did not win gold in AEW. They should have won. They should have won those tag belts when they were part of the the Inner Circle?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had this match with the best friends in that parking lot brawl, and I thought that was like setting them up for it. But to me, the line that Santana said to Josh was way more ruthless. I don't remember the wording, but it was basically something along the lines of like he basically was saying that he was kissing the guy who was booking the show's ass. That was very, very, yeah. We talk about that a lot. We know.
We all know why that was not going to happen. The politics of jealousy by a certain brother tag team. All right, so yeah, they even put the belt on the Acclaim. That's true. So obviously Josh brings up the fact that he beat Christian Cage. I'm still bitter about the fact that we were robbed of Josh Alexander and Kenny Omega. Oh, that
yes.
To this day, that's still we were so close.
That irks me. Yes,
that irks me
I
too.
Agree.
Till this day, it irks me because they were obviously building to that.
Because Josh should have been the one that was in the empty arena versus Kenny.
Yeah.
Because Josh was the flag bearer for TNA. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, yes, a lot of things about that bug me. We could spend a whole show talking about And again, not to get sidetracked, people could. I'm not talking about the business side for it. I'm talking about purely from the matchups. We did not get enough cross-promotional matchups that we should have gotten in that whole thing.
Yeah, but we're not.
I believe Tony Khan was on TNA more than the amount of AEW wrestlers that were on TNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got Private Party once, and that was it.
Let's not get too wrapped up into
I know.
A whole nother video. But anywho, he brings up the fact that he beat Christian Cage and that he lost the belt before he even had it wrapped around his waist. Obviously referencing to Moose calling his shot and basically robbing him of his moment, which I was there live for. I love the fact that he mentioned Miro Suzuki, Bronson Reed, and how he beat killer after killer on his way to becoming the Senate, which is so true. Those matches were incredible. Some of Josh Alexander's best feuds. And he says that as long as he's in TNA, Santana will never be the guy. That's when Santana brings up the fact that it was Josh. Was it because of Josh? Was it Josh sucking up and kissing the ass of the man with the pencil? This next part killed me, man. He mentions Josh's bald ass head turning red. And the girl starts chanting bald ass head. Oh my god, that had me dying.
No, Santana totally owned this whole segment. Like, I was like, dude, he's gonna beat the shit out of all three of them. And I think that's kind of what they said, right? Next week he has to face all three, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And real quick, I just looked. Now I go according to Fightful, I believe. So it's Joe Hendry's contract. I mean, Josh Alexander's a free agent on February 15th, 2025. So I definitely think this is going to be Josh's final feud, especially if he does leave. I would like to see him put Santana over, especially I believe Josh planted the seeds. He said that they beat LAX and packing. So how fitting would it be if Santana beat him and sent him packing? The writing should be on the wall. That's what it should be. I don't know what pay-per-view is in February. I don't know what
is it. Sacrifice.
When is that?
February? No, this year's Sacrifice, I believe, is in March 14th.
So is there a show in February or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, definitely that should be who Josh puts over. It should be fitting that right when he said that line. I think everyone kind of should figure that out, what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And what a pro for Josh for saying that line, because that almost makes it inevitable. Like that should be a foregone conclusion what the match is going to be.
Oh yeah, there might be haven't announced February stuff yet. That's true. There could possibly be a show in February. We just don't know. They haven't announced anything. But this was a really great segment. I mean, this stuff was heated. I definitely cannot wait to see any more interactions between Mike Santana and Josh.
Santana just totally like commanded this whole promo, and like he just exudes like somebody who is a top guy already. And what's just crazy too, it's like I've never seen somebody like, it's not like he hasn't been a singles guy for that long, but I've never seen somebody take to being a single star as quickly as he has. You know what I mean? Like a lot of fans will call for, they want someone to go on their own. You know what I mean? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I don't think you could point to anyone and they would say that he's failing as a single star. I think he's killing it.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm telling you, I cannot wait for Mike Santana. He's going to be main eventing Summerversary and winning that title in his home state of New York.
And Hannafan's very good at every time, since he's the only one that's beat every member of the system. Hannafan really makes him out to be a beater of worlds out there.
Yeah. Jeffrey Young wants to know what's our favorite TNA stable of all time.
I would probably say for me, it's a tie between. That's really hard. And I think I'm going to go Prime Beautiful People just because they were getting a lot of heat. Selfishly, I did kind of like Immortal just because Jeff Hardy as a heel to me is underrated. So those would be my two favorite. But also, I think that there was a lot of money left on the table with Fortune. They didn't really do anything, but I think there was a lot of money left on the table with that.
Okay. Since I only been watching TNA 4 years, now it'll be 5 years in July. As far as factions are concerned, I guess I have to go with the system.
That's a good one, though. They are good.
That's true. All right, Bert. So let me ask you something, Bert. Do you know who has cool sunglasses and doesn't give a damn?
Who?
Frankie Kazarian.
This segment was so good because the fact that Kazarian with like a straight face, like, yeah, like you could be like to Leanne say, like, you know, you can't be a king, but you could be a prince. And he's like, you need to be carrying my bags. Like, just like, what a total dick. Like, what an asshole. And then JDC coming in like, you know, he's like that kid. If that kid can get rid of his demons, he might make it something. Like, just a couple of pricks. Like, oh, this segment was so good.
JDC calls him Leon the Future Slater. Oh my god, but Frankie Kazarian has been killing it as the king of TNA. This was such a funny segment. I really liked this. He wanted Leon Slater to carry his trophy around for him.
That's so funny. I like how JC like, hey, nice trophy at the end. You know, a couple of guys just shooting the shit. You know what I mean? A couple of heels. I liked it.
Same. It was really good. All right. Last but certainly not least, we get a Nic Nemeth segment. And he's talking about Joe Hendry and the fact that he's the #1 contender. That he says that he can't keep saying nice things about Joe Hendry because he's going to kick his ass in a couple weeks. And then he gets interrupted by Ryan. By his own brother.
Yeah. Again? Yeah. Love it.
And
it's like what you were saying. He keeps going like, my brother, like he's such a dork. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah.
He's found something with this character.
Nic Nemeth reminds Ryan that it's his fault during this tag match in the first place. But he calls him out for respect, for saying that he respects Joe Hendry, and he calls Joe Hendry a snake and will stab him in the back the first chance he gets. And they're gonna show Joe Hendry and Rhino why the Nemeth name is synonymous with greatness. Well, maybe just Nick so far.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, and like I like how Nemeth kind of like walked out on him. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have time for him.
And then Ryan had the audacity to blame the fans because he's upset that they upset Nick.
Of course.
But this is good, and I think, and like I said earlier, I think Ryan Nemeth definitely has something going on with this character. My brother, my big brother. So I think this is gonna be a great character for him.
Definitely.
All right, so overall, Warrior, we're gonna stop the review right there because we already talked about the main event and about what went down with the Knockouts tag match, the 8 Knockouts tag match. So overall, Bert, what were your thoughts on this show?
You know, I could see maybe some people, you know, I liked it. I could see maybe how some people will say, for a show back, kind of underwhelming. But again, it was a good show to kick off the build to a pay-per-view, so I'm fine with it. And again, anytime the knockouts are in the main event, to me, that's a win.
I thought it was a really great show. For it being the first show back, I thought it was great, you know? I really like that we're getting built to TNA Genesis. What more can we ask for?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bert. So as we get ready to sign off, where can people find you?
Just on Twitter at BertMaclin11.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter or at X at @the_. I talk WWE Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, TNA Impact, and then I go live on my channel, Rangers of Wrestling, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, occasional Saturdays and Sundays, and of course for all things TNA, you can check us out here every Thursday. But with that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continuous support. It means a lot that you guys tuned in for our first show back. And we'll see you guys next week. as the road to TNA Genesis continues. Bye.
Bye.